In this second round warm-up for the Bane of War tourney, I'm taking on Tank Rider's Tankovy in Breakthrough. Same list as last time. We got the do-or-die infantry backed up with the training tanks and panthers, while my buddy has his gorgeous Tankovy with a mix of T-34, T-34-85s, and some sort of SU platform. We're using the same map as the previous Batrep, as you can see, with the two table quarters that I'm defending are the one closest to the camera and the one opposite from. He's going to be attacking from the arrow from this position over here. Tank Rider actually helped me out a lot in terms of really lousy positioning and setup, and really helped me out. He made a very astute comment about trying to look at the opponent's list and try to figure out how he was going to screw you the fastest. So I took that to heart, and I put my panthers over here behind the woods very carefully. You can see they're just off the edge, so that if he managed to get around somehow and get first shots, he wouldn't be able to kill anything. We have one platoon of infantry. They are dancing all across the board over here, through the hedge line, through the trees, all the way into the little grove. And then we got the other infantry on the other side of the board, ready to make their mad dash towards the objectives that are on the nearer side of the camera. Far edge, we have all the mortars, all these wonderful, beautiful 15-centimeter howitzers. I love those things more than I probably should. I mean, they're reluctant vet, and in this list, they're like 200 points. It's pretty hard to go wrong. Tank Rider decides to start the game with the shorter group of T-34s, leaving Dedov to lead the reinforcements, with the tank destroyers making a sort of denied flank on the northern end of the board. Our objective is going to send these infantry off to the other side of the board just as quickly as possible towards the objectives, because we need to wait for that stronger Tankovy to do their damage on that side of the board. Now there's a village in the center of the board that I have very carefully placed all kinds of infantry into so that he can't really go directly into it. And as a matter of fact, he actually made some really great advice. I had infantry all in that church right here, right at the bottom, and he pointed out that what he was going to do is just semi-indirect fire and just at full rate and just kill them and just wait a turn. That would have been a disaster. He let me move it back, and that was actually really smart. You know, just deny them the shot, make sure he has to get close, and then just let the infantry move out and do their thing. And as he's moving through the town, he gets slowed up, and the artillery opens up, bagging 2 tanks from range. Oh, good stuff, good stuff. I love those 15 centimeters. The Panthers move forward. They can't really see anything. I am very scared of those bog checks, thinking that they're going to lose a tank in it. And wouldn't you know it, I do believe one of them bogs trying to get out. I went back and forth with my buddy trying to figure out if it was worthwhile hiding. But, I mean, they bog. They move out. They try to make some shots downrange. If memory serves, none of them connect, but they do look cool. The infantry begin moving through the woods. We're going to hot-foot it with the CIC just as fast as possible. We got a Panzerschreck, some machine guns in there. You know, we're just thickening out that platoon, so it's going to be harder to break. He decides not to even touch the infantry in the town, which is probably a wise move. They just, go to ground. They're just going to stick around, wait for something interesting to happen. It's at this point that he starts zeroing in on the howitzers. Again, clutch play by my buddy. He pointed out that if I put my howitzers in this shot you'll see right here on the farthest left, he was just going to move forward and snipe one off and then slowly move over and snipe, slice the pie, so to speak, and get rid of them. And I moved him back just a little, and just because of that, now all these guns can see him directly. I should have went straight to firing over the iron sights at this point, but he just moves forward and he splashes no targets. I end up using artillery. It wasn't. I shouldn't have fired a salvo. I should have went straight forward. Infantry keep moving forward. We are now contesting one of the objectives. This would be a great time to dig in, but we're not, because we're not contesting the other objective. It's just a little too far away. So we're going to have to send everyone over there. We send one of the tanks back to try to unbog the Panther. Because, hey, why not? He makes a skill check, and wouldn't you know it, he's stuck. He's just going to be there for the rest of the game. Historically, the Panther had all kinds of problems with its transmission. So, it probably blew the final drive or something, or maybe they just got better things to do than to fight in what is certainly a losing war to them. Artillery, open up! We go after a salvo when I should have went over the iron sights, and we managed to bag one of the tank hunters. Hoorah! I guess, or whatever the German equivalent of that would be. I'm sure they have some sort of, call sign for that. We keep moving around over to the side. We're going to abandon that Panther because why? Just why? I mean, we no longer have any shots. It might take another turn or two. The crew is on their own. We're not going to spend a lot of die rolls on that. I just see bad things happening. And as you can see here, the Soviet offensive is actually going pretty well. Losing only 3 tanks would have been great in my hands, but he's a much more competent player than I am. And he starts thundering through the woods. None of them bog, as I recall. Ranged in marker forces him to keep going through the woods, because there's really no other way to go unless he wants to get hammered again. Russian air support does show up, managing to look impressive for a while. He gets excited, rolls to hit, and you can see that one airplane die. Completely whiffs it. Tanks come out of the woods. They start peppering the mortars out in front of them with machine gun fire, and I don't even think he gets the pen, which is kind of sad, a little demoralizing. The 81mm mortars actually don't do anything in this entire game. I don't think they did anything in the last game either, just kind of some fruitless shelling. But things are looking pretty good so far. I don't think he launched the assault this turn, but he will the next turn, and that's going to go about as well as you might expect. But the training tanks arrive before that can happen because, again, my buddy pointed out that they might be lousy tanks, but when they're backing up infantry, they actually make an okay anti-tank gun. Infantry on the objectives start moving in, and they spread themselves out so that they can be a nice bulwark, a nice little speed bump for the tanks that are going to come eventually. Unlike my Panther, I ditch it and I leave him. I'm sending the Panthers over to where the T-34 horde is probably going to arrive this turn. I'm actually really careful with some of these moves. There's a bunch of T-34s and tank hunters on the other side of the board that could take pot shots at these Panthers if they want to. So I'm very careful to angle all the front armor, as you can see here, so that there's no way that he could do that, just in case I lose the Stormtrooper roll to get them across the road. 15cm howitzer bails another tank hunter while the Panzer IIIs do some World of Tanks style nonsense and start swinging around, drift-titoing their way around the Soviet Tankovy, and they manage to bail one of the T-34s. I'm not really expecting much out of these guys, just a little speed bump, just slow down, shoot those guys. But it's enough to completely make the T-34 company decide to leave. Oh, it was great. It was just so good. Their commander doesn't leave with them. He decided it wasn't worth it. Dedov, however, shows up in the nick of time on the southern end against the objectives, against the infantry that just moved out there. And wouldn't you know it, none of them have dug in yet. So it's a whole scat of T-34s and infantry out in the open. This is the turning moment for the Soviets. I mean, just do the pocket math on that. How many machine gun dice will 8 T-34s throw out? I mean, it's 3 tanks each. It was a lot of dice rolled, but wouldn't you know it, we made a lot of the saves. We got pinned, but we made enough to make a difference. We're still holding on to the objective. And there's just nothing he could really do about it except for assault. But he does the math, and I have Panzerfaust and everything, and, well, you can see what happened. He moved forward, I ended up bailing him in the assault, and he just died. And that was it. I do believe it was Dedov that was in the swing. And then Dedov decides, now let's just go into another tank. This wasn't for realsies. This was just a psych out. There's a lot that could be said about why he only sent 1 tank to do the assault, but it all boils down to the amount of hits that I could have probably given him if he'd sent any more. On the northern end, the Panzer IIIs decide to go ahead and receive what they've been giving as the company commander decides to light one of the Panzer IIIs up. Tank destroyers have a really lousy turn of shooting, as you can see here, surprise, the tank hunters have showed up. They pop their ambush and decide to lay into the back of the tank hunters. Panthers move around the southern end of the board. They're going to engage the Soviet Tankovy that decided to show up. We're going to really light them up as we bail 2 more, completely destroy 2 more of their tanks, giving the infantry quite a bit of breathing room as they've managed to dig in this turn, no less. The tank assault ends up going pretty well as we bail one tank and destroy another. I don't follow up with an assault. I really should have assaulted, but I fired as though I wasn't moving, so what can you do? Lost opportunity. He remounts the tank, and wouldn't you know it, he's not going to stick around for that. T-34s are lit with a vigor to do something because the Panthers are breathing down their necks, and there's all these infantry out here. We got to do something about that. Even the Spetsnaz decide to show up and pepper the remaining German infantry on the target with everything that they can. So they move in for the assault. This is absolutely critical because they need to push me off this turn or never. So they move in forward, they pepper the whole scat of infantry out there with another bucket of dice between the SMGs and the tanks. They get their pin, they move in forward. I do believe the Panzerfaust managed to get their 2 hits to push off the assault. While the Panthers are just sitting out there, just waiting for their turn. They're going to give them back to them. We also got the Panzer Shreks you can see in the foreground. They're ready to just light up the remaining T-34s. Soviet Air Force does decide to show up. Casting the vodka aside, they decided to barrel down on the one Panther out in the open. They got one plane. They go to hit. They hit! But wouldn't you know it, they bail the tank, and he's just going to remount the next turn. Spetsnaz had nothing to assault as the only unit in front of them is HMG, and he was pretty sure they would all just get pushed back on it. So instead, he's going to try to make them lift on to ground, I do recall. But for sitting around for a little while, they get punished for it as the rifle MGs and the HMGs start lighting up everything. The Soviets start another assault into the infantry, trying desperately to push them off, and it is a complete disaster. We've lost so many tanks. So many of them. The T-34s just get lit up. Dedov decides to find another tank to jump over into, leaving him, I do believe, the sole tank unit left on that side of the board. Gotta leave it to his tenacity, though. He just gets up out of his tank, jumps right into another one. It's cool. We got this. Panthers move in. I'm gonna go for the clear and certain victory. At this point, I haven't won a game of Flames of War in years. So I move the Panthers forward, and I just start lighting up everything you can see, like dead off, and we just pump them full of rounds because we're just not going to let that guy get away. You manage to kill him. Infantry decide to try to light up the remaining Spetsnaz, but they only score 1 kill. Panzer IIIs continue to grind it out at close range with the tank hunters and the company commander. I try to kill the company commander, but he attaches to the tank hunters, and it keeps applying all the damage to the tank hunters, and we manage to bail or I think kill him. I mean, that whole formation is in a nasty state. I think they only have 1 working gun at this point as the howitzers finally decide to go over the open sights and kill the other tank hunter. Soviet commander has nothing of it as he finally lights up the tank student commander's tank in a gun duel. Well, what could you do? It was going to happen sooner or later. I thought it was going to happen a long time ago. But it's pretty epic that the commander had to take care of business by himself and kill probably somebody that was a commander in his own right at one point in time. Now these Panthers, the ones that showed up to the game and are not still stuck in the woods like 6 turns later, I'm really enjoying these guys. They just kind of showed up, put pressure on the Tankovy, and started lighting up everyone that didn't acquiesce to their demands. They're just friggin' awesome. Look at the carnage. That's great. But with the game surely slipping from his hands, Tank Rider goes ahead and sends the remaining tank destroyer to assault my mortars, but it's under the open sights of the howitzer, which gets a defensive fire roll, manages to bail it, not kill it, but since it's in base-to-base contact with the infantry, guess what? The mortar crew got a kill! Yeah! And that's where we called the game. That was pretty much it. He had, nothing left. He's passed his company morale check, surprisingly. But there was nothing he could do to take the objective or push on. I mean, he still had the Spetsnaz on the southern side of the board, but there was no reason it was going to do anything. If I didn't get so aggressive with the Panzer IIIs, it would have been a 6-1, but it's only a 5-2 since I did lose that platoon. But, I don't think I did anything necessarily wrong here. Except for this guy, whose daring do managed to allow him to hide, and with his wide tracks would have made him a certain availability later on. Yeah, right.